Welcome, everyone, to the Digimon English World Championships. I am your host for round 4, Steven, but you can call me the true champion, Steven. And joining me today for this commentary is Huang Zero, but I call him Alex.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to be commentating on these games, and I hope they will be absolutely fantastic.
Alex, can you tell me, because I actually have no idea, and the people at home, how today's rounds are going to look?
All right, so we will be going by the round-robin system for the championship here, and how the round-robin system works is that every single player will play all of the other players in each respective pod at least once. And every single pod, we do have 4 players, 2 of the top players from every single region. And from that, they will all play each other. And whoever has the highest 2 scores in the pod will be advancing to the next round.
Awesome. And I do want to let everyone at home know that sadly, we could not get the gameplay for Joseph Reyes, one of the representatives from Oceania. He played 3 total matches using a Just Spawn deck, but we do luckily have his results. He was able to finish with victories against Vicente Reyes and Kevin Diaz, but a loss to Brent Sosa, the representative from North America, giving him a final score of 2 wins and 1 loss. So hopefully within the rest of the rounds we have for Pod A, we can see who can challenge him for a top 4 spot.
You're right. And then, so going into this next round with Brent being 1-0, and then we have Kevin Diaz at 0-1. It's still very, very early into the pod. It can be anyone's game at this point, right? But definitely, I think it'll be really interesting to see how this turns out, right? With only 3 games to play total in your pod, you really have to make every single game count, right?
Right. The only score that could really challenge Joseph's finish is like a 3-0. Anyone that gets a 2-1 might have to do a tiebreaker type situation in order to advance instead of him. And I believe the 2 players we have right now, Brent and Kevin, are piloting 2 very different decks. We have Lilithmon and we have Yellow Hybrid being piloted by Kevin Diaz. What do you think about this matchup, Ed, before we get into it?
So I definitely think that with Yellow Hybrid and 3 Musketeer, no, my apologies, not 3 Musketeer. Lilith Loop, right?
Wrong Purple Queen. Wrong Purple Queen there, wrong.
But we do have Lilith Loop versus Yellow Hybrid. And on paper, this is actually a very Lilith Loop favored matchup, given that Yellow Hybrid isn't able to close the game out very easily. You really rely on cards like Susano, and you don't have Mega Digimon Fusion any longer, so you really can't close out the game with Susano on 3 memory. But so Seraphimon and BT2 Rise Greymon are really going to be the ways that you close out the game very quickly as Yellow. And we also have seen a lot of adaptation just in general, right? We've seen Dynasmon, we've seen Sakuyamon, we've seen Kazuchimon, right? A lot of different ways that Yellow Hybrid can really build themselves. And then Lilithmon, of course, losing the Mega Digimon Fusion as well, definitely hurt it a lot. And so we'll see the adaptations coming out of cards like Win Rate 60%, and as well as the Eismon engine, right? I know a lot of people are excited for that.
So what you're saying is both decks have a lot going for them and are being piloted by 2 of the best players in the world. So I'm sure we have a heck of a match to watch. What do you say we head into it, Huang?
Yeah, sounds great. Let's get right into that, right? Okay. So, all right. As it looks like the players are getting set up and everything. But it looks...
And it looks like Kevin will be going first in this match. Oh no, Brent is going first.
Brent's going first,
right.
Yeah.
I was tricked by the simulator. It's okay.
Yeah, we're playing on a simulator.
Happen a lot today.
We're playing on a simulator. That's super cool.
Ooh,
okay, real quick. I hang out with Human, who is 3rd place North America. As you know, he is probably the best Lilith Loop player in all of North America. And he plays 8 rookies, only 8 level 3 in his Lilith Loop deck, okay? Do you know how crazy that sounds? Like that sounds crazy, right? Like we were struggling to play 14, 16 back in the day, but now you have Human only playing 8. And the reason why he only plays 8, and it's actually demonstrated very well in here, is because you have so many turn 1 plays in Lilith Loop that you actually don't mind bricking on rookies. And so if you brick on rookie, you can still play the game. Right, so we're going to first. You have rookie. You have rookie to play turn 1 play. You have Eismon Slam turn 1 play, and you also have Analog Youth turn 1 play. So actually have a lot going for you.
As a purple player, my favorite of those has to be the analog youth play, being able to set up your trash and maybe dig for some of those lower counts of rookies you do have to have even more potential later plays for cycling and gathering your pieces. This is definitely a combo-oriented deck, so a card like Eismon, cheap, filter, and potentially damage is a must include. And here we're seeing the first turn from Kevin. He's playing, of course, a yellow hybrid deck and starting off with a TK and still not ending his turn is one way to start. We saw him add, I believe, a Dynasmon from his security. Using that effect, putting the rest back. We saw a bunch of Tamers in his security thanks to the addition of the simulator here, so we have a lot to take note of here. He'll probably end his turn by going for a second Tamer, or maybe even one of the hybrids like Zephyrmon that are in his hand. We do see him going for the TK to pass back 2 over to Brent, who is now going to start his turn. Let's see if he does end up attacking with this Eismon, and the even bigger question, if it survives.
Yeah, so in the BT7 format, we have seen Eismon gain jamming. All jokes aside, there's a lot of Tamers in this format, right? So it's actually very difficult for Eismon to actually be deleted in security, which means that it's a lot harder to proc the Eismon effect. I ran the math not so long ago, and versus the average yellow hybrid deck, you actually are statistically unlikely to have your Eismon proc. I think it's like a 30% chance that Eismon is likely to die in security, so it's really not in your favor. But we do see, the Eismon
and that's why I never trusted math. That's why you never trust math, guys. Yes. Results speak for themselves.
But yeah, so with that, we actually do see the box topper, or not even a box topper. It comes in the pack.
Promo. Yep.
Yeah, the next adventure Seraphimon, which is on Digivolve heal 1, and then on deletion also heal 1. So really, really impactful healing coming out. I also do want to note that. We didn't talk about that, but this is purple base yellow hybrid, which means that Kevin Diaz does have access to the Schwarz Lahertz. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I mean, didn't you take German?
Allow me. All right. Schwarz Lahertz. I was told many times in many comment sections of my videos how to say that one, and I'm safe to say that is how you say it. And honestly, it's a very fun word to say.
Okay, well, well then. But so we do see that Brent Sosa actually does have the Eismon in his hand. He discards it off the Eismon. So when Eismon is discarded and you have scatter mode in your trash, it does allow you to play the Eismon for free. That's of course super impactful tempo. And then he's able to digivolve into the Cerberusmon, passing over a perfect amount of memory over to Kevin Diaz. So not wasting any memory whatsoever, but being very memory efficient. But Yellow Hybrid, they want the game to go to a relatively long point. They want to set up their kingdom of tamers, as I like to call it.
the kingdom of children, the daycare to end all daycares, yes.
But yeah, so currently with 3 memory, he does have the Zoe in his hand, Kevin. He also could go into the Zephyrmon, into the Rise Greymon, and lock his opponent over to 2. If he were to go into Zoe, he could potentially pass his opponent over to 2 memory, it looks like. But it does look like we're just going to go into Zephyrmon, into the Rise Greymon, if I had to take a guess, right? Because you would, you still pass over at 2, but you're also advancing your board state, because Rise Greymon will inevitably play the Zoe, but unfortunately you wouldn't get Zoe's on playability, because unlike BT4 Rise Greymon, which is the red-yellow Rise Greymon, the BT2 Rise Greymon does not activate Tamer's on playability.
And honestly, that might be preferred at this point, given what Kevin might know is in his security. He might know there are no targets for Zoe, so wasting it just to do nothing makes no sense. And like you said, too, building up a level 5 and choking his opponent and potentially drawing into the TK Kari right there could be an even better solution for him. Why commit a card that won't get value when you could commit a card that can cycle and then commit just as much value, if not more?
That's actually such a crazy card to draw into off the Digivolution, because that card is already online, right? He's already down the 1 security, so TK Kari will be giving him an additional 2 memory at the start of his turn. He will have 5 memory to play with, and we do see... Steven, can you pronounce that card for me, please, one more time?
Schwarz Lahertz.
He does have that card in his hand, so he will have some board wipe potential coming out if Brent Sosa decides to build up his board.
And here we're seeing Brent choosing to go for the, I think, really awesome aggressive addition that Lilithmon now plays in Cerberusmon Werewolf mode, just to play a powerful Rush level 5 Digimon while getting some free extra cycles. We saw him earlier evolve into the Tsukaimon. That's again more synergy with the Eismon package or on deletion effects that the deck is now sporting. I wonder if, because the TK Kari is already established, that Brent feels free to start swinging. He doesn't already have a level 6 in his hand, so it's not like he's trying to save this Werewolf mode for anything. I would personally like to see him go for the swing here. How about you?
Well, so the swing obviously comes with a lot of pros and cons, right? Especially in a hybrid format as we currently are in. You swing, sure, it'll put you ahead in the race, but also you potentially hit a tamer, and by hitting that tamer, you're going to accelerate your opponent's win con significantly. Loop is one of those decks that has the potential to just completely explode on top of your opponent, and then you could spit out anywhere from 5 to 6 security damage in a single turn, right? The pro is obviously you make it so you have to have less pieces for your loop turn in order to, inflict lethal onto your opponent, but simultaneously, if you swing and you hit a tamer, then you might be sending yourself to your own doom, right?
Mm-hmm. But as I've so accurately explained, Shavar's Lersace is a very powerful card, and if you just leave ultimates in play, they can just be freely taken care of at any point, where level 6s might be a bit harder, especially given that we know... Oh, that Kari's a very good hit right there. But we do know that Kevin isn't playing any copies of Shine Greymon, I believe, so he doesn't really have a very efficient way, besides like maybe copies of Wyvern's Breath or something, to deal with level 6 Digimon.
Right, and so hitting that Kari is actually very interesting, because that does mean that should Brent Sosa ever decide to inflict another, security attack and reduce the security of Kevin Diaz, then he will be able to tap the Kari in order to gain additional memory and pass the turnover potentially. So that's actually very, very powerful in the Lilith Luton matchup, because you might be able to just, take away that last memory that they need in order to get out their lethal combo.
But Lilithmon is nothing if not memory affluent, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of ways for Brent to play around a card like Kari.
Hey, he ends up drawing the level 6. Unfortunately, it isn't Lilithmon, it's Nidhoggmon. Nidhoggmon is, I believe, when digivolving, you may discard one card. If you do, destroy delete one level 4 lower Digimon on your opponent's side of the board, or if you were to discard Nidhogg from your hand, gain 1 memory, which Lilithmon players love this card, absolutely.
I mean, it's basically a Jack raid that doesn't require 10 memory, 10 cards in trash to actually proc. So that's very, very useful. And here we're seeing the Dynasmon come out of Kevin here. Interesting choice, not going for the Seraphi. Not only will you still probably stay underneath the security, but you can just like attack and deal 2 damage. I wonder what he's trying to prioritize here. Maybe just overall defense.
Yeah, so Dynasmon is very much so a tower style of card, being that he's standing tall and proud, and he's very difficult to get rid of. Being a 12 cost does mean he will be deleted by the Omnimon's Wart, as Omnimon's Wart deletes anything on attack that is 12 cost or less. But Dynasmon, if you're at 3 or less security, should your security be reduced, you are able to heal 1. So after Dynasmon resolves his effects, he will be able to go back to 3 security, which, it's nice and everything. Should he ever take, first piece of chip damage, he will also heal back. So definitely you're trading in pressure for a little bit more of the sustain in this matchup.
For sure. And we do see him going for the swing here, probably going to be targeting down that Cerberusmon Werewolf mode. As we've said before, Yellow Hybrid is a deck that wants to play the long game. He's not really interested in doing any damage yet. He'll have an army of Rise Greymon security attack plus level 6s if he ever needs to finish the game off. So just making sure that he has a very good control of the board state that can limit the amount of damage he's taking is probably what he wants to prioritize. And here we see him going for a second copy of TK Kari. Yes, he is passing over 3, but he's basically guaranteeing himself plus 4 memory every single turn.
So I actually want to make a note, is the BT2 Rise Greymon is not security effect. The inheritable source skill is if you have 3 or more yellow tamers on your board, you do get the +1 security attack. So prior to playing the TK Kari, he actually wasn't receiving that security attack. So you're a little bit more incentive to swing over that Cerberusmon because you weren't dealing 2 damage, right?
Of course.
But we are back to Brent Sosa's turn. Unfortunately, he does not have the Lilithmon, but he does have a few different ways to pop his own Cerberusmon if he wants to try and generate a little bit more tempo, which we do actually see him going for the Call from the Darkness, which will pop the Cerberusmon and then return back 2 purple Digimon of his choice from his trash back to his hand, and then resolving the Cerberusmon effect. And then for those of you watching from home, if you don't know the ruling, how this works, is if he adds back that specific Cerberusmon, he will not be able to resolve the Cerberusmon effect because it has to be in the trash when it resolves its on-deletion effect. But he is able to grab the other Cerberusmon. He just can't be that specific Cerberusmon being deleted.
But here he's probably going to go for like Eismon or Werewolf mode or some combination of those 2 cards. Actually, we see him eyeing up the other Cerberusmon like you so adequately said. Maybe he wants to because he is going to be gaining a memory off of the Tsukaimon and maybe discarding the Nidhoggmon to gain another memory. Maybe he wants to just build a second level 5 in the battle area that he could essentially create into a Lilithmon. But let's see what he chooses to go for here.
Yeah, I definitely... I feel like investing a lot onto your board right now, it could be potentially very dangerous, right? Because you don't know whether your opponent is playing Shine Greymon at this point. So if you develop too much off a board onto this field, you likely walk into that Shine Greymon. But it looks like he's going to go into double Eismon, actually. Eismon being discarded, this allows it to summon itself with Scatter Mode in the trash. Each Eismon is 5,000 DP, so it does require 2 Shine Greymon procs in order to delete it. But with TK Kari, that does inflict minus 1,000 DP onto his opponent's Digimon, should hit yellow Digimon swing. And it looks like we're going to go into Cerberusmon for 3 memory. So this now means it will require 1 Shine Greymon proc plus 2 TK Karis or 2 Shine Greymon procs.
And let me just double check, actually, if Kevin is in fact playing Shine Greymon. I don't believe I saw it in here earlier.
We're going for
No, he is just playing Susanomon and Dynasmon. So he has chosen to go for a more defensive / like recovery-focused yellow hybrid deck versus a removal-focused one. So believe it or not, those cards were always safe.
So this is actually very interesting. So he commits one of his Jack raids and then Digivolves into the Lilithmon, fulfilling the 10 cards in trash requirement for Lilithmon to grab back 2 different option cards. So grabbing back the Jack Raid as well as grabbing back the Call from the Darkness. Lilithmon on the board, it does mean it is going to be able to start looping potentially on the following turn. We do see he has 2 Jack Raids as well as that 60% win rate, or win rate 60%. It's one of those.
Yeah. And
that means Omnimon's Wart will come down for a total cost of 2 memory. But he doesn't have those Wart in his hand, so he will have to dig for that a little bit.
Or the Tamer as well. And actually, no, he does have the Zwart in his hand. It's just on the far right. You just can't see it because of the simulator. It's tricking us once again. But speaking of Zwart, there's one right there in the security. So that is one way to deal with Dynasmon. And that was actually the first check of potentially 2. So that's actually a very huge tempo loss for Kevin there. Not only is he not able to deal enough damage, but he now is losing his biggest way to defend himself from a slew of attacks that could be coming his way in the following turn. But the thing I wanted to point out was, like I said earlier, because he's choosing to evolve this Lilithmon and there is no Shine Greymon in this deck, I don't see a way for Kevin to deal with this Lilithmon right now. It's just going to chill and gain a ton of advantage for Brent turn by turn, and it could lead to maybe some type of crazy combo that he's probably going to set up for once he does get access to like Analog Youth or more win rates. But, once he gets 10 cards in trash, who really cares?
Steven, my friend, it's called Susanoo on top deck. Have you ever heard of that one?
But does he have the 10 Tamers? I don't think he does. He probably only has like 6 or 8 at this point.
He has enough memory to digivolve from all the way from Tamer to 6 and then Susanoo now. Off of 7 memory.
4, 3, 1. Okay, yeah, he does. You're right. All
right.
Let's see it.
You gotta believe in the top deck Susanoo,
He is playing 2 Susanoo as well, I think. Or was it 3? I think I saw 3.
3? Wow, okay.
No, sorry. It was 3 BT1 Seraphimon,
okay.
But it is 2 Susanomon.
Okay, so he is able to go into the Seraphimon that will recover 1, and he doesn't top deck his Susanomon. So this Lilithmon will not be deleted on this turn, so Brent Sosa actually does have a super powerful turn coming up in the next turn. Wow.
An interesting choice Brent went for here was he evolved the Gazimon that he had on the bench instead of saving it to potentially end his turn with here. That probably is a big misplay potentially because now he has no way to actually limit the amount of memory that Lilithmon can gain. And here we're seeing the Analog Youth come out from the trash. So win rate 60% is online for Brent, and that can lead to a lot of crazy shenanigans.
So just to clarify, it's actually from the security, but yeah, definitely hitting.
Yeah, from the security.
Is really impactful because this does mean win rate 60% is online. It required a Tamer to activate, and here we are, right?
And plus, he has like an extra way now to fill his trash to get that 10 cards. He originally didn't have the 10 cards before this turn started, actually.
Yeah. So at this current moment, it's a little bit awkward. I would definitely say it's a little bit awkward because you can't pass your opponent to a perfect interval of 1. You're gonna have to pass him to at least 2, and using the Jack Raid, he will be able to put himself to 3, and off of 3 memory, that means you are able to digivolve into a level 5 if you need to. Having the Zwart in your hand as well means the win rate will be able to go off and get that Zwart out. And I think Brent Sosa is about to start popping off a little bit here. But Kevin Diaz was able to recover back all the way to 5 security, actually, using the power of Jet, Sylphimon, and Seraphimon. Absolutely insane cards. So the current board state as it stands, Kevin Diaz is technically in the lead with the security, but of course, Lilith Loop, you can never count it out because this deck can easily pop off for like 4 or 5 damage, right?
Oh, yes, 100%. But I do want to point out that the play Kevin went for is a play that I love to do personally in my own yellow hybrid games where people try to like not attack you to not proc your TK Karis and whatnot. But when you do have an ability to not only gain 2 extra security yourself thanks to the combination of Jet Sylphie and Seraphi, but then follow that up with a plus security attacking Digimon to just swing 4 damage potentially between you and your opponent, it can lead to a crazy tempo shift and a crazy amount of aggression that you might not have expected if you were playing against yellow hybrid. So I do like the decision from Kevin to go more aggressive. It's just he got punished by the Dynasmon getting deleted and by the Analog Youth coming out, and I feel like he could have mitigated some of that, setback if he chose to play this Gazimon down instead of evolving it to try to limit the amount of memory that Brent could potentially gain this turn, because looking at Brent's hand, I have no way to know if a copy of Deathclaw is in there to properly deal with a card like Gazimon that can stop memory from going up. So right now, I think Brent is trying to figure out the best way to kind of place his cards to begin his combo. Oh, no, Kevin is still using Zoe. Oh, okay, I see. I was like, what's happening? Why are cards being placed when nothing's happening? I see. So he's resolving Zoe's effect to see if he wants to add a hybrid to his hand. Let's see if he chooses to add anything or not. But I don't really think it's a big deal. He could proc the Kari here, actually, to choke his opponent to 1. That could be an interesting choice.
Yeah, so... Oh, man, that could proc the Kari, couldn't it?
Right, because it does add a card to his hand.
Right, and so you choke your opponent over to 1. What that would mean is he would force out a Jack Ray for 1 in order to activate the Win Ray. But you do have the Lilithmon, so that's not too big of an issue. I believe he only has that 1 Lilithmon on the board, so he doesn't have an extra copy of Lilithmon. But Omnimon Zwart will be able to bounce back that Lilithmon back to his hand on attack. In order to get that instruction off. And Omnimon Zwart will also pop the Seraphimon on attack. So that's actually...
Well, actually, no, it won't, because it's rested. So it has to be swung into
it has to be
top.
standing.
Yeah.
You're correct. It does have to be standing. Yeah.
But honestly, like, if you're in Brent's shoes, just attacking into the Seraphimon might still be a good call, and then just filling your board with a bunch of different ultimates. Because I don't really see it possible, given that Kevin will be at 5 security for Brent to get all the checks in a single turn. But, I've seen Lilithmon attack like 6+ times in a single turn, so you never know what's possible.
Right.
And there we see Kevin adding the Jet Sylphie to hand. Very nice for the extra recovery. And like we said, he'll be recovering 1 thanks to Zoe's effect, and then potentially proccing Kari here to choke at 1. I would say choking at 1 is a pretty good call. Forces more out of Brent if he does want to do anything meaningful this turn.
Yeah, so actually, would you play the Kari now? Would you tap the Kari now? Because you arguably use the Kari to interrupt your opponent's flow on the following turn, right? You make it so they have to be a little bit more aware and a little bit more cautious of what could potentially happen, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Rather than trying to like overtly counter something they could have, you want to like bait them into potentially making a misplay that could just cost them the entire game.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that given the skill level of these players, they're very good at given that they are in the 8 finalists for the World Championships, that they are very keen at understanding the board state as it is and what they needed to do to accomplish what they're intending to. I would say just going for the value when you can is probably the best way, especially in this matchup, given how grindy it can end up being in like this mid state right here. It's always worthwhile. But he didn't choose to do it, so let's see if it does work out for him or if it doesn't.
Well, so I think the argument here is you're almost 99% guaranteed to have this Kari resolve one way or another, right? Because if Brent Sosa doesn't get some kind of damage down onto this board, he will be, a tad bit behind. Worst case, if he tries to play around the TK Kari, then you have this Seraphimon just primed and ready, right?
Well, he can just swing Lilithmon into Seraphi because Seraphmon's only 10k. So, like, let's say he doesn't have Zwart. He doesn't actually need to commit to attacking security at all this turn. He can just further set up, gain a bunch more memory, and maybe find a way to just choke Kevin now and make him unable to threaten him at all, given that he is at 2 security still, right? Because the only threat that Kevin is representing here is the Seraphimon. And if you go for the Kari now, you kind of lead Brent into attacking security rather than Seraphi, right? Because then if he doesn't find a way to kill you, Seraphimon can just end the game in the following turn. So we do see him going for that.
Does Kevin have Blinding Ray in his list?
I don't believe so.
I was going to say, because potentially if you don't get some serious damage output here, potentially you would be afraid of the Blinding Ray, no? Because at 5 memory, or hypothetically if he was at 5 memory, right, then he'd be able to Blinding Ray for lethal. But because he is at 5 security and we do see Brent Sosa over at 2, that does mean TK Kari is not active, so he will not be getting that additional 2 memory at the start of his turn.
And yeah, there is no Blinding Ray in Kevin's deck.
Okay. I think that's actually very interesting. I think Blinding Ray is probably one of the most powerful cards Yellow Hybrid has at their disposal, right? It's such a powerful card. I've been calling for a Blinding Ray hit for such a long time, actually.
And by the way, does that Kazimon actually die? Because isn't the Eismon 7K due to having scatter modes in the trash? Or am I crazy?
Does he have scatter mode in his trash? He does.
Well,
right?
he has to because he played multiple Eismon for free. So I would assume it is 7K.
Yeah, so Eismon actually should have survived, I believe. I think you're correct, because Eismon should have been the 7,000 DP.
Earlier, we did see a 2-drop TK come down that could buff the security, but it's not in play right now. There you go. Look at that. They caught it. Or he's discarding it. That's coming from the trash.
Yeah,
so
they caught it.
They did caught it. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys know what's up. I'm sure there's like a judge in their call as well watching the game.
Yeah. But we do see the Kari coming on down, so that will take away the memory away from Brent Sosa. So like we said, at the end of the day, that one memory was still taken away from that Kari. But at the current state of the game, Analog Youth on the board, we do still have that win rate on the War. There's a lot of different plays that Brent Sosa has at his disposal. Not to mention the fact that he still has one Jack rate available at this current moment.
I want to say he's trying to figure out the best way to map his memory to end his turn with the Omnimon Zwart versus trying to do anything else beforehand. Because expunging this Jack rate before you can go into a second Lilithmon feels a bit not worth it, given the kind of combos he wants to do to end the game with multiple werewolf modes and whatnot. So I could see him just going for evolve right here after going to 3 with this Jack Raid into Zwart, and then having the Nidhoggmon plus a Cerberusmon that you could evolve into / kill with a werewolf mode to then gain more memory after that. That's what I could see him going for. We're seeing him play a Gazimon actually.
Yeah, so going into the Gazimon does mean he is able to ward off any attempt to Blinding Ray.
Yes, you were right. He is afraid of the Blinding Ray, so he's playing around
that.
Too. We know he doesn't have it, but obviously Brent does not know that, so he's trying to make sure that he doesn't accidentally leave lethal on the table for Kevin on the following turn. I was thinking I knew what Kevin's deck was, and here's the best way to make sure Kevin can't win at all. But no, he does not know that, so we need to figure out the best plays.
Double Gazimon, actually. That's really interesting.
Well, this could be a pretty ideal turn to go for Shavar's Lersates, if I dare so say, because you can just promote the Gazimon, kill 3 bodies, and now Gazimon is you can't use Lilithmon's good effects anymore.
Yeah, but we do know that Brent Sosa has the Nidhogg in his hand, so he will be able to pop that Gazimon, if that is the only Gazimon that Kevin decides to go with.
You mean Deathclaw, right? Not Nidhoggmon.
Well, discard Nidhogg. Oh, no, you're right. Digivolve. I was thinking Digivolve. Nidhogg's
on Digivolve effect kills Gazimon, but his memory gain effect is through discard.
Yeah. But hey, Deathclawing that Eismon in the raising area, or is it? It's a breeding area, right? The breeding area would be pretty potent overall.
Oh, for sure. He's definitely going to promote it. I wonder if you swing with it first to see if it lives. Like you said earlier, it has a very good chance to live sometimes.
I think it has
gain the value of damage and then kill it afterwards does seem a little too juicy to pass up. I'd be greedy. I would be greedy, but Brent might play. I would totally agree on the next turn. But unless Kevin doesn't kill my board, in which case I'm always swinging with that Eismon because I have plenty of other targets to kill if I needed to. But the potential of having the Eismon scatter mode not die and then killing it afterwards is just too good.
Oh, so he actually does elect to swing the Jet Sylphimon, I presume, at the Eismon. It's security.
No, he's going for security. He's got a race. He knows that he's in trouble.
He hits the Lady Devimon.
Man, talk about stacked security for Brent's side, just getting free removal all day against Kevin.
But he does. We do actually see him, Kevin, draw into the Susanomon. So that does mean he has a way to take out that Omnimon Zwart if the next turn does come around, or he can take out that Lilithmon.
It's really sad to see no Bokos on Kevin's side at all this game to give him free access to hybrid evolutions or even a cheaper costed Susanomon evolution. I could totally see a Susanomon for 5 here being super potent against the Lilithmon, but we do see the clutchness of Xiaomon as your main Digi-Egg to retaliate, kill that Lilith. Analog Youth will proc his effect to pass over 1 and make it Brent's turn instead of Kevin's. So a lot of good board control on both sides, some for free, some not for free. And now let's see what Brent can do. He's lost his only Lilithmon. I don't think he has any... Oh, no, he does have a Cerberusmon in his hand, so he can evolve up to Ultimate if he needs to. We see 2 Gazis and 2 different Eismons. Let's see what happens.
So I actually don't know if proccing the Analog Youth there was the correct play coming out of Brent, because he forces himself to be locked into 1 memory, whereas if you didn't activate the Analog Youth, that means that you're more than likely going to get 3 or more, or 2 or more memory, and you can definitely work off of that kind of threshold, right?
I wonder if he just didn't want to allow Kevin to end his turn with a Shavar's Sates, let's say, just to wipe his entire board. Maybe he was trying to avoid that. But I think you're right. Only giving yourself 1 instead of the potential to have maybe 2 or 3 is a bit of a stretch. But even so, only having 2 or 3 means he can probably just play 1 card during his turn anyway. So it's really no big difference. And we do see the Kari putting him to 0, and then the second Kari coming out. So it's still Brent's turn. I think they just went a little fast there in terms of the sequencing. So it is still Brent's turn. Really no big deal, because like I said, 1 was really playing 1 card was really all Brent was going to do. Here we see him going for the Calling from the Darkness. There is no Tsukaimon underneath that scatter mode, so this will pass turn, but of course give Brent plenty of cycle throughout his deck, and even get access back to that Lilithmon that he lost last turn.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing is he only has 16 cards left in his deck, but he has only seen the 1 Lilithmon. So definitely he's going to have to try and salvage that back. Actually, no, Call from the Darkness grabs back the Lilithmon, actually. I take it
exactly, yes. Yep, exactly. Yep. And then I really wish we could have seen a Tsukaimon, or, you know what? We might see him discard the Nidhoggmon here just to have it still be his turn.
Yeah.
And then because the other Eismon survived, we could see him evolve into that Cerberusmon that he has in his hand. That could be the big play he's going for. And given that the second Kari did come out, that's why we didn't see him attack with the scatter mode to potentially get the greedy value, because it's definitely going to be punished whether it lives or dies because of the second Kari. So definitely great play by Brent's side, sequencing totally properly. We just weren't. We were slow to catch up. There's a reason why we're not playing in this tournament, and they are.
Okay, so it does look like the Nidhogg is discarded as well as the Eismon, so he will generate additional body as well as gain the extra memory. So it will still be Brent Sosa's turn. And he's gonna, he's still resolving his effect. He's resolving Gabumon's effect now, actually.
Yep.
So, wow, there's the other Eismon. Okay.
Has he seen all 4 regular Eismon?
I think, if not all 4, at least 3. At the bare minimum, 3, right?
Brent is going to be very disappointed come April 29th when that card goes to 1. But right now, that's not the life we're living, baby. We're going full send, no breaks, and it feels good.
All right. And then I believe he still has the Demi-Meramon effect to resolve as well at this point. Okay, so he's just putting the Nidhogg back into his trash. But yeah, so he still has Demi-Meramon to resolve. So he, has another draw 1, discard 1 to resolve. If I remember correctly, I don't believe he went through it yet.
Yep, there it is right now. He's drawing with Demi-Meramon, and then he bounces. So now he has 2, one that he added back and one that he drew. And just when you think Lilithmon and Set 7's turns are over, they just do 5 more things afterwards. It's just how they roll right now. It's pretty cool. Would you attack with this Gazimon here? I don't think so. I think ending your turn with a Cerberusmon Werewolf mode, or even that copy of Lady Devimon that's chilling in his hand could be very, very good.
I definitely wouldn't attack with this Gazimon. I don't see a lot of incentive to do that. I wouldn't like to pass my turn at this point. I think more so than anything, I would like to. If you set up a level 5, you potentially walk into the elusive purple option, if you will.
That ever complicated purple option.
Yeah. But simultaneously, everything still dies regardless. So even if you were to digivolve into a Cerberusmon, it still would be popped. So, regardless of that outcome, I feel like either way, at this point, you're just debating whether you want to advance your board state or you want to keep that extra chip out, right?
For sure.
The Lady Devimon coming on down, actually. So that will draw 2, discard 2. We're getting really close to deck out for Brent Sosa, actually, because he does have to draw an additional card for Digivolution as well. So he's actually only at 7 cards left, much further into his deck than Kevin is. Do you think this is potentially a deck out angle from Kevin?
I mean, it completely is. I mean, the one thing that's like scary about Lilithmon in set 7, and the reason why it's no longer called Lilith Loop, is you can't loop your resources anymore. You will eventually run out because you no longer have access to the super clutch play of Mega Digimon Fusion and Omnimon Zwart, and then end your turn, no cards in deck. Oh, suddenly your Zwart becomes your last card again, and you still have a turn. That play is no longer on the table. And so Brent, or all Lilithmon players for that matter, need to be very careful about how they manage their resources. And I think the reasoning behind this Lady Devimon is to dig for Jack raids, because he knows that Kevin is going to do everything in his power to choke the memory and try to force that Deco game, like we just said, because that seems to be the most viable way for him to win at this point. Because the aggression, he just doesn't have the resources himself to play enough bodies to swing turn after turn, given what Brent is presenting to him, which is lethal on his board. But yeah, I could totally see this going to deck out. But like we've said multiple times, Lilithmon has the potential to do an absurd amount of attacks given the setup. And a Jack Raid right now for Brent would give him +2 memory and be more than enough to go into Lilith and then do all the shenanigans that he needs to attack as much as he needs. So it's all completely on the table. And why was the analog being procced there? Shavar's, there he is. I didn't see that. I was blind. Yep, clearing the board, passing over 6, and yeah, this. If you're Kevin, or sorry, if I was Kevin, I'd be sitting pretty right now, thinking, "There's no way you can get enough attacks to kill me in a single turn. I am housing 6 cards that's in your deck. May as well just be 2 or 3 turns left."
Right. So for players watching at home, the thing about the purple option, I feel like I've just lost the privilege to say the name. I'm not even gonna try it. It counts both hybrids as well as tamers when it counting for what you are able to delete. So while he only has 3 tamers on his board, he does have the Zephyrmon, who is the hybrid. So he's able to delete all 4 Digimon, but the analog youth will proc. So actually with 6 memory to play with, and he decides to hard slam the Cerberusmon and then digivolving into not digivolve on like hard slamming werewolf mode. So this will resolve Cerberusmon effect, draw 2, discard 1. We're getting very, very close to running out of steam here.
Again, it's just digging for the Jack Raid, and there it is. He's discarding the Nidhoggamon to gain a memory there. Thanks to this Jack Raid, he will gain 3 more, going to 4, and we could totally see, like I said, the Lilithmon coming down. He's choosing to attack into this Zephyrmon here with the Werewolf mode just to clear it, and I think the sparks are about to fly. The reason why he did that too, by the way, was to not proc Kari Kamiya, so that way he can now play Jack Raid and just do what he has to do.
I think the bigger reason why he did that is because the moment you digivolve into Lilithmon, you would lose the rush effect. All right, so you want to get the most bang for your buck where you can. You want to try to use the rush where you're able to. So we do see the Lilithmon's coming right on down. Every Jack Raid is worth 3 memory. Lilithmon will make it a 5 memory Jack Raid. That's absolutely insane. And we're grabbing back all of our Jack Raids. I think this, like you said, this is going to be the turn where Brent Sosa decides to pop right on off.
And if he does choose to go into that Zwart, he has to win this turn because he only has 3 cards left in his deck, and Zwart's effect does mill 3 when he is digivolved and put into play. So let's see if Brent goes full send here. We do see him starting off with a Jack Raid, going to gain just a nice cool 5 thanks to Lilithmon and its effects. No big deal. And he's at 6, so he could just go hard into Zwart here if he wanted to, but I might see him going for the win rate just to make it a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. You have the breakthrough 4 whole security. You have 2 Kari staring you down. There's a lot of challenges in the ahead of for Brent Sosa, but yeah, it looks like connection lost.
The dreaded connection loss. Man, this simulator is just putting the moves on us today. It is tricking us left and right, and it is even doing some swerves for our opponents here. No worries, I'm sure it'll be reconnecting soon. But this just gives Brent more and more time to think through this turn and really make sure he times his sequence of gaining memory, playing Digimon perfectly. There isn't a card like Mastamon or anything in his deck, so getting like a burst of damage from anything that isn't just playing a bunch of Cerberusmons or playing the potential promotes that he has
we're back.
Is not on the table. And we are back, so let's see him continue. I think he was drawing a card for the evolution of Gabumon here, potentially digging for more just combo pieces.
Right.
You can never have too many werewolf modes in your hand, folks. Always could use more of those.
I mean, yeah, so at this point, more or less, Brent has to commit to, taking out Kevin at this point, because with only 2 cards left in his deck, that's not a lot of room to work with. Like you said, there's no more Mega Digimon Fusion to make sure you don't deck out. So definitely a lot riding on this turn.
Let's see. And there we see, do we see any calling from the darkness in
No,
Brent's
there's
hand?
no calling.
So I think I only see one werewolf mode. So I think he might have one more. He does play 2 copies of Calling from the Darkness in his deck, so we could totally see him try to grab that within the last 2 cards before he evolves here in Zwart.
I believe it's in his trash, and he opted
Oh, they're
to
both
grab
in the
that.
trash?
Yeah, I believe so. But, if he digivolves into a new Lilithmon, which isn't out of the question for Loop, then maybe he's able to grab it back and grab back those werewolf modes to extend his plays with. But yeah, he doesn't have any in his hand. He does have 2 Death Claws, but I don't think that's not really doing too much at this point in the game. Yeah, so it looks like they're just trying to get everything back on track at this current moment. But with double win rate, what could you potentially do? Okay, so we're gonna Jack raid for 3, so he's at 9 memory. This is a lot to work with, yeah.
So I think the out is like Jack win rate into 2 costs Zwart, bring back regular Cerberus Mon, and potentially promote if it's in the trash. I don't think we saw promote actually in this deck.
We hard slammed werewolf mode.
Huh, okay. Interesting. Oh, maybe he's just not going to commit to Zwart this turn and wait for the following turn. Yeah, he's not going to commit. We thought it was go time, but he did not see a line to actually get enough attacks in. He's going to choose to wait one more turn. He knows he's not at risk of dying because there's only 1 yellow tamer in play. There's only 1 line of attack that Kevin could have that doesn't just end his turn. I actually like this line of play a lot, but we do see the Wyvern's Breath chilling right there in Kevin's hand. That could be very deadly, but passing over 5 memory against a Lilithmon deck that has 30 plus cards in their trash and potentially a second Lilith in hand is scary. But does Brent have another copy of Lilith in his hand?
I
don't see one. There's one card that's question mark, but I don't think it's a Lilithmon. Yeah, so if this Lilithmon does die, I don't think there actually is a route for Brent to like pop off.
Okay, so without the Jet Sylphimon in Kevin's hand, that does mean he will be unable to Digivolve for 1 and gain that additional security. So at this point, Kazemon is going to swing in. Kazemon, what is it? It's a Gabumon. Okay, so it survives. I'd imagine at this point you have enough for Susano as well if you wanted to get rid of this Lilithmon without playing the Wyvern's Breath. But it just looks like you're going to go for a TK instead, locking over Brent to 3. So this does mean he is guaranteed lethal on the following turn if Brent isn't able to take him out, right? Because just to evolve into Kazumon, I really doubt Brent runs blockers. There's the Jet Sylphimon. Okay, yeah. Now we're really cooking at this point. So now it's actually go time for Brent.
Well, he doesn't have a Jack Ray in his hand, so he can't actually... Oh, no, sorry, that's right. Lilithmon's still in play, so he can win rate for free and then go into Zwart for 2. Right. So, yeah, I think all the stars have aligned right now. If there's any turn that Brent has had to start going in, I think now is the time. His Lilithmon got to give him extra value for free, essentially. Get off free a swing in, and now it's on the board still. Very interesting choice from Kevin to not choose to get rid of that with a Susanomon, like you said. Maybe he just didn't see that line of play, or maybe he thought that, he only has 1 card left in his deck. Of course he has all of his Lilithmons in his hand. What's the point of getting rid of this one?
I think that's the logic. He probably assumes that Brent has another Lilithmon in his hand at this point. So, even if you were to get rid of 1 Lilithmon, a second Lilithmon would come out. That would allow him to grab back his Jack Raids. I'd also be pretty wary of that as well. But yeah, I mean, with the Werewolf mode and the Sukaimon both able to attack on this turn, he might be able to just, clutch this out and inflict all 5 necessary damage to close up the game. But of course, with double Kari staring you down, that's scary. That's really scary. Oh man, is all 4 Eismon in the trash? I see 3. I don't see a 4th.
He's definitely gone through all 4 this game, no questions asked. But I'm really excited to see, if Brent does find all the attacks he needs this turn, if Kevin whipping that Jet Sylphie, like you said, might actually matter, because he totally could have gone evolve Jet Sylphie, recover, and then evolve BT1 Serapia, recover again, and 7 attacks is a tall order at this point for Lilith. And there we're seeing him go for the swing, revealing the Zoe that will proc both the Karis. Maybe he has a Jack Raid that we don't know about. There is an unknown card in Brent's hand.
Well, I mean, he can still cast an option and gain back 2 memories. So, that's, still a little bit of room to work with right there.
True. He does have access to the Death Claw that could give him 2. But would he be able to win rate and then go into Zwart after that? I don't think so.
No. Definitely a very awkward situation, to say the very least, I would say.
Is he just going to pass again and be like, I got 1 card in my deck, so I have 1 more turn? Really just choosing to get all that he can out of his deck. But I mean,
but no
just
blocker, and then
yeah.
what like do you just bank on the odds that Kevin doesn't have the hybrid? I mean, we see he has the hybrid. We see he has the Kazemon in hand. That's definitely a really awkward turn. We do see the Werewolfmon deciding to swing on in. Okay, what does this reveal? You know what'd be crazy? No. Let me tell you. It reveals Memory Tamer TK. He doesn't have a yellow into security, and he goes down. he loses the security.
Could you imagine if just this lone Gabumon ends it without any actual Cerberusmon Werewolf mode shenanigans? That would be insane.
How funny would that be?
Let's see.
Okay, it's Pokemon. It's Pokemon. So it's not that. It's not that. Okay. Woo!
Is there an attack here that we're just like not seeing? If he goes to 2 memory, there's no regular Cerberusmon in his hand. I want to know what that unknown card is. It might actually matter.
Yeah, I mean, maybe... Okay, so it's Akari, but Akari doesn't matter too much at this point in the game.
All right, let's see. 1 more attack's all he needs. That's not a lot.
Yeah,
Death Claw, he'll gain.
Does he have
1.
an Eismon in his hand? No. Does he have Eismon Ginkaku? No, right?
No, yeah, he would need no. If it's Ginkaku, no, it's already rested the Gabumon, so we can't evolve into that. It very well could be Eismon Ginkaku.
But I don't think we saw a Ginkaku promote.
Oh, it's in his hand, but we've already seen all 4 Eismon.
Oh no, there is a promote. I do see a promote.
Yeah, that's in his hand. But haven't we seen all 4 Eismon?
Unless this is the Eismon.
Maybe we haven't.
Is this the 4th Eismon? We were talking about this all game. Does he have the 4th Eismon in his hand right now?
Because for those that don't know, Ginkakumon promote can evolve for 1 on any level 4, and it himself does have Rush, but like I've said earlier, I think he's already gone through all 4 Eismon, so there's no free level 4s that can come out.
You have to.
And he doesn't have enough memory to play Tsukaimon. But let's see.
I don't remember a 4th Eismon. I feel like.
Oh, you know what? Jack Ray would be enough because he'll gain 3, go to 5, play Tsukaimon, evolve for 2, swing. That's what he could be. It could be Jack Ray. It could be Jack Ray.
It could be a Jack Ray. It could be the Jack Ray. You are correct.
They're just resolving all the effects right now before anything else happens.
Of course. But
has he discarded yet? It's
the Eismon. He has the 4th Eismon in his hand.
Goodness. There it is, and there's the Evo for 1 into promote, and the swing with Rush for the game.
That's gonna be game.
Wow, the last card in his deck being Eismon. Crazy,
I told you, Steven.
Crazy.
I told you we didn't see that Eismon.
I could have sworn we counted 4. I could have sworn there was like 6 Eismon being played that game. I could have sworn we saw them all already. But wow,
chat,
winner of the first game, Brent.
Chat, do you remember when Steven said math doesn't matter? Do you remember that, chat?
I could have sworn I counted 4. I promise. I tried to math. Math failed me, or I failed it. One of those 2 things happened.
I passed the 3rd grade, Steven. Did you? I can't tell at this point.
Oh, man. Oh, well, while these players set up for game 2, let's briefly talk about what just went down that game. I would say Brent was doing his very darndest to maximize his resources. Every time we were saying, oh, it's go time, Brent was like, no, hold on, wait. I don't need to go yet. I'm going to run out of resources and fail to kill him if I go now. And then I think Kevin was a bit too cautious that game. Like, he wasn't playing nearly as aggressive in terms of controlling Brent's board. He wasn't taking active steps to stop Brent from doing stuff. He was just like, I'm going to set up and eventually try to aggro you out. Given how slow you're playing it, I would kind of like to see this game Kevin take a more like hard control route, doing his best to counter what Brent is capable of doing during his turn, utilizing his Gazimons, utilizing his recovery and his removal that he does have access to, just to leverage the tempo in his favor. Do you think that's a pretty sound strategy for him going into the next round?
Well, so like you said, he hypothetically could take a more control-ish aspect to the strategy, but not having the Shine Greymon is a little bit trickier in that situation, I'd imagine, right? Your primary removal is going to be that Wyvern's Breath, the Susanomon, the can you say the one more time for me, Steven?
Shavar's Lersates.
God, I'm gonna take lessons from you or something, man, in order to pronounce that. You know, when we go to Digifest Arlington, I'm gonna look at you dead in the eyes every single time, all right?
All the German people in the chat watching this, give me a nice 07 to thank me for my pronunciation skills. Thank you.
Right. But yeah, so like you said before, it's definitely going to be really tricky because, you know, this is inherently a Lilith loop favored matchup because Yellow Hybrid doesn't historically have a lot of pressure. In order to put down that, force your opponent into that position to where they're sweating a little bit. If this was Blue Hybrid, another example, you'd be able to freeze out the Eismon. Eismon would be unable to attack or block or anything along those lines, but Yeah, this is definitely going to be really difficult for the yellow hybrid player. And I feel like there's also a mental edge going into game two, right? You feel like you're on the back foot. You feel this is the world championships, right? You feel a lot of pressure coming down on you right now. But, you know, getting into the game, right? We are going to see Brent going first, actually. So Kevin has elected to go second. I feel like this is actually very interesting coming out of Kevin. Because, you know, if you're playing a hybrid deck, you do like to go second because you like to play off of 3 memory, which normally you would be passed over if you were facing a hybrid player, but you're playing against Loop, and playing against Loop means you're more than likely not going to be giving that 3 memory that you like. You're either going to be passed increments of 2 more than likely, right? Either digivolving it into Eismon or the Analog Youth. So, yeah, it's a little bit awkward, I feel like. A little bit awkward.
And frankly, I think we're seeing 2 really ideal first starts from both of these players. The Eismon Scatter Mode already being evolved up for Brent, and the Gazimon plus TK start going second for Kevin. So yes, he did choose to go second, but I think he's made the most of it so far, giving him the best options possible of just making sure that he can build his board in preparation for what Brent is inevitably going to do. We don't see any ways immediately in Brent's hand to like just kill the Scatter Mode forcefully, and like you've said before, mathematically it might survive if he attacks here, which could be pretty bad for Brent given that he only has rookies, champions, and no ultimates in his hand to evolve up after it might live. So let's see. My favorite game of set 7, does the Eismon live?
I think it does. I think it dies. That's my guess.
And it does die. Give the man a candy. He got it right, and that is going to be huge because we do see double regular Eismon in Brent's hand, which he could just play right now if he wanted to. Ideally, he'd want to see an ultimate here from these 3 cards drawn, or I think 4 cards drawn because we have a Tsukaimon plus a Demi-Mera, but we do see the Analog Youth, which could also grab us our ultimate. There's the double Eismon that I alluded to. He's proccing the Demi-Meramon skill here, getting a Zwart. Yeah, so I think the best thing that could happen here is you go Analog Youth into ultimate, evolve into ultimate, pass. Those are like those ideal situations for me. I believe he already gained the memory for Tsukaimon to go to 3, so everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the ideal scenario coming out for Brent, and being able to get out double Eismon your opponent. Do you feel inclined to commit the purple option at this point?
It depends if I can get the Zoe down and then commit the 6, but we do see the ultimate coming down, so he will be potentially threatening just a very powerful level 5 Digimon, as well as potentially a Lilithmon just being hard evolved. And as we saw last game, Kevin doesn't have the most ideal ways to deal with level 6 Digimon, because he doesn't play a heavy count of Wyvern's Breath or even Shine Greymons, and even if he did have Shine Greymon, he has only 1 Tamer in play, which is not enough to kill Lilithmon. So I could totally see Brent just choose to evolve up here, put the pressure on Kevin to be like, deal with this board. If you don't, I'm going into Lilith next turn, then I'm going to gain a ton of value throughout this game.
That is unfortunate. He actually digivolves into the werewolf mode, and then he draws into the Cerberusmon, so a little bit out of order there, but nonetheless, this is definitely a very, very good position to be in if you are Brent. You have Analog Youth set up, you have 2 bodies, one of which is just level 5 going to that Lilithmon. I'd be sweating a little bit here, right? Because the As I again, I feel like I just can't. I lost the right to pronounce it. But that purple option is not going to be able to cleanly take out both of these Digimon. Now at Zoe he could, but do you feel comfortable passing over 6 against Loop?
It'd actually be 7 thanks to the Analog Youth proc off that Cerberusmon werewolf mode. And given that we don't have a huge trash, given that there's like nothing really threatening us, I do feel confident. Like if you are threatened immediately by this werewolf mode to play it here, he does choose to play it.
Did Zoe not grab anything? Did I miss that?
Yeah, no. He just looked at the 4 and then put the 4 back. So yeah, nothing.
So potentially there's just no hybrid in there.
And yeah, that's it. Nope, just no hybrid.
Interesting. So that either means A, his security is very, very weak, just filled with options and tamers, or B, it means there's a bunch of level 6s in there, and a lot of stuff is going to start dying to these swings, right? But yeah, definitely a couple of different ways we can look at this. Brent Sosa at 7 memory, wow. And he has level 4, he has level 5, and he has a level 6, so he can definitely just go right into Lilithmon and prep that in his breeding area at the current moment. Yeah, it looks like...
and And I would have loved to have seen him commit the scatter mode first and then evolve into Cerberusmon just to have like the board presence established, because potentially getting another werewolf mode online. Oh, he is doing that. Great. He just did in the different order. That's perfect. Yeah, because the reason for this is that next turn he can swing at the scatter mode. If it lives or dies, whatever, cycle through his deck with the Deathclaw guaranteed to kill the Gazimon, potentially draw a werewolf mode, play the werewolf mode, get the Cerberusmon, the Gabu, the Demimera, and the Promote in his trash. All amazing cards to have in there, setting up for the Lilith. But here we just see him committing double Kari, passing over 3 to Brent, and we see the Lilith in Brent's hand. He has 9 cards already in his trash and a Jack Raid already in hand. There could be a lot of shenanigans going on this turn.
I mean, yeah, if this Eismon does end up dying, that will mean he's able to cast a Jack Raid, but
Do you risk the swing here to proc the Kari, or do you just play the Deathclaw, kill it, kill the Gazi, and then go from
probably
there?
the Deathclaw. Probably just the Deathclaw. I would commit the Deathclaw. Because, if you commit the Deathclaw, then you go to 2, Jack Raid go to 3, and then you can Lilithmon for a perfect amount of memory. We do see the Deathclaw coming on down, so, really just, it looks like Brent has the, as the cool kids say, he has the sauce.
Yes, he is living in the Lilithmon sauce, and let's see if he gets another Eismon to discard off this scatter mode effect. Just double youth. Triple boys. All right.
Youth. All right. I guess Brent Sosa, he really big fan of Digimon World 1 because Analog Youth coming on down, but it looks like he's actually going to commit. Oh no, is this discarding or is he playing?
Yeah. He still needs to discard 2 cards
so
out scatter mode.
Okay, we're discarding the Analog. I mean, yeah, I would discard Analog Youth if you drew into all 4. Yeah, I would start discarding it.
And then he still has the Gabumon and the Demimera. Oh, sorry, no, wrong Digimon's dying.
Yeah.
I thought he still had the other discards.
No, but he ends up discarding a scatter mode.
Yes. He's like, we already have enough of these procced. We're good. We'll just play the Jack Raid, go to 3, evolve in the Lilith, bring back Jack Raid and Deathclaw maybe.
Yeah, no, he has 2 Jack Raids. He has 2 Jack Raids in trash. Wow.
Perfect. And he does have the win rate, and the win rate is online thanks to the Analog Youth. So now we can finally see an early game Zwart. Plenty of cards in deck. No risk to go for it. We are plentiful with resources right now. I could totally see Brent going for that.
I mean, I think this is one of the differences between win rate and Mega Digimon Fusion, and was one of the contributing factors to Human's entire Nationals run, is the fact that win rate 60% doesn't actually get rid of the Omnimon Zwart at the end of the turn, right? Unlike Mega Digimon Fusion, which would inevitably bot deck that Omnimon Zwart, win rate keeps it on the board. So you have this big, beefy Omnimon just sitting there. It's going to be really difficult without the Sonomon or the Shine Greymon to get rid of it. And yeah, it looks like we're actually going to commit for that Omnimon Zwart play.
And like you said, just having this dude live turn to turn is a big selling point of win rate. That's why people would play it back in the day, is so you could use it to keep him in play. But I do think there is more pros to Mega Digimon Fusion being a free evolution and, of course, preventing you from ever decking out. But you know what? Win rate is a perfectly fine alternative that we are now forced to play, but it's not really a big deal.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason why Mega Digimon Fusion is banned.
Of course. And there we're seeing the Mill 3, and let's see what he chooses to call back. Probably just like regular Cerberus and maybe that Lady Devi that he just milled, so we could maybe have a second ultimate to evolve into.
I would imagine the Lady Devimon comes on down. That's one of the prime targets if you are playing Lilith Loop, being able to pop any Gazimons that would potentially be a problem sum for you. But it looks like everything else left in the trash is of level 4. This looks like we're just gonna grab.
We had the werewolf mode, and we that's right, we evolved on top of the Cerberusmon, so we can't grab werewolf mode because he's too big of a play cost, and there is no Cerberusmon rigged in the trash, so just the Eismon's fine. Probably gonna see an Analog Youth to pass the turn here, or just swing with the Zwart, have him use the Karis and pass the turn for you. Yeah, that seems fine.
That works. Start putting on the pressure. We do see the starter deck TK coming on down that will bestow an additional 2,000 DP to all security Digimon on the side of Kevin Diaz, but this is definitely a really awkward position because there's no Susanoo in his hand. There's no Wyvern's Breath. There's no way to get rid of this Omnimon. This Omnimon is getting net a lot of value. No TK Kari either to punish this. No Jet Sylveon either. Ooh, this is tricky. This is very tricky.
We're definitely catching Kevin with like a very unideal hand for Yellow Hybrid. That's a thing about this deck, is sometimes if you don't see access to early TK Kari or even a bunch of early TK and Zoes that hit and get you pieces like your hybrid package, it's kind of hard to actually present any kind of board presence if all you're doing is playing Tamer cards. But here we do see the Shavarsler States getting rid of those 2 cards that Zwart called, but that does proc Eismon Scatter Mode's effect, which, Brent's always happy about.
Right, and Analog Youth only procs if a level 5 or higher is deleted with sources underneath it, so this Lady Devimon will not proc. But he's discarding the Nidhogg, so that will pass over an additional memory on top of everything. Wow. We're this is just looking really really good right now for Brent. But it's yellow hybrid, still at the end of the day. And with 5 tamers set up, I still wouldn't count this deck out for the count. I can't count how many games I've seen yellow hybrid just bounce back from very little security. It's absolutely crazy, right?
I mean, if Kevin wanted to, next turn he could just go evolve Zephyr, evolve Jet Sylphie potentially, evolve BT1 Serafi. He just recovered twice and buffed his security potentially up by who knows how much. And I do want to point out that Brent, while he did just gain a bunch of memory right there, his board is kind of unimpressive. I mean, all he has is a Zwart, no sign of getting an ultimate in play, and no real way to recycle any of his past resources. Just a bunch of rookies. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do to try and find paths to put more pressure on Kevin, because this Zwart isn't doing nearly enough.
Well, so we can't check the player's trashes at the current moment, but
right
at this point, how many of the Schwartz has he gone through? Right,
2. Kevin's gone through 2 for sure. Yeah.
So at this point, if you're in Brent's position, do you just assume he doesn't have another Schwartz potentially?
Yeah, most lists play anywhere from 3 to 4. I think Kevin is specifically playing 3, so there is still 1 left. But, Zwart doesn't care about Shvars anyway, so I think he's fine. And here we're seeing Analog Youth grabbing Nidhoggmon, then milling 2 more option cards. Kind of sad to see. Would have loved to have seen that Calling from Darkness to recycle some champions and maybe more ultimates that he could hard play. And there goes the Gazimon to pass over 3 to Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, like we just mentioned before, he doesn't know whether or not Kevin has the Blinding Ray, so better safe than sorry, because Blinding Ray would, it's always that clutch factor card. But yeah, definitely, he has to hard draw into the Jet Sylphimon in order to sustain himself in the game, because we know Zoe didn't find any hybrid, but he does draw into the Kari, unfortunately. So no Jet Sylphimon unless he top decks it right here with the Zephyrmon. I think that's what he's banking on. Zephyrmon will give his security an additional 3,000 DP, and he draws into Dynasmon.
Again, another great mega that he can get into, but only if you could find the level 5. But sadly, like we said earlier, Zoe didn't grab anything from the security, so there's no way for him to grab it outside of just drawing into it.
So it looks like Zephyrmon is going to go in. He's going to try and get back any sort of damage that he's possibly able to do. It hits the Gazimon, so Zephyrmon will survive. And another Kari is coming on down. It is the Kingdom. The Kingdom has been established.
And this does technically prevent lethal, because the second Brent swings once, he's going to lose 3 memory, but he does have access to a Nidhoggmon, so a big brain play could probably be to attack with the Tsukaimon first, hope it dies, discard the Nidhoggmon to go to 3, and then Kari will be irrelevant. And then that could just be the end of the game.
That could be it.
He's not risking it. He's just going swing Zephyr. He knows Kevin has nothing. And as we saw from last game, Brent is totally chill with taking his time when he already has lethal on board.
I mean, with the circumstances and everything surrounding this event, I definitely would take my time as well, right? It actually looks like he swung the Omnimon to...
He could have gone for game this turn. I'm just putting that out there. The Tsukaimon would have died.
Yeah, so Omnimon swinging into Zephyr. Tsukaimon does die to the Rise Greymon in security. He could choose not to pass his turn with the Nidhogg if he decides to go that route, but at this point, you can just take it slow and easy. There's not really a rush, but yeah, he does elect to discard the Nidhoggmon to keep his turn still going. He could end up playing another level 3. At this point, you just assume no more purple options coming out for you, because you've seen 2 out of what presumably is 3 or 4, like you mentioned before.
And here's even just swing with Gazi, because by this point, Blinding Ray isn't doing anything of note from Kevin's side of the board, besides just proccing Karis, and it is a Zoe. If only that Zoe was the first card. But there we see the Gabu coming down, and like you said, there's no real mass removal from Kevin. If we don't see a Jet Sylphie, there's truly nothing you can do. He doesn't even have a regular hybrid in his hand to evolve on top of these yellow tamers.
No level 4,
so
no
let's see
level
what
5.
happens.
Oh.
It's just the Tige Kari. I don't see a way out of this for Kevin. You can play the memory boost to hopefully get Shvars, but then Brent can just play around that by attacking with any non-Zwart first. And there we go, the concede for Game 2, making Brent from North America the winner of the 4th round in Pod A for the Digimon English World Championships.
Right. So with this now, Brent Sosa is at 2-0, so he has one more game to play after this, which will be later throughout the day. But Brent is now at 2-0, and we do have Kevin, unfortunately, at 0-2. I think. Let me think. How does math work out here?
We know Joseph is 2-1. And Brent is 2-0. Vicente is 0-1. So if Vicente can beat Brent and then subsequently beat Kevin, he will tie Joseph and Brent, and there'd be like a 3-way tie for potentially the 2 top 4 spots.
Oh man, this is
so a lot could happen throughout the day.
Yeah, a lot could definitely happen. This is kind of the beauty of round robin. You know, you really put everything on the line. You know, but yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think what could have happened differently that game.
Well, drawing Jet Sophie for one, that could have been a big deal for
drawing your Digimon, right?
For Kevin. And I think a big thing again is in the first game, I think Kevin had an opportunity to play Ghazi instead of evolving into it. That could have choked and made it way more awkward for Brent to actually gain resources off of his Lilith. And we knew that Brent was never really gonna go for a big Zwart turn given how many resources he had left in his deck that game. And so just choking him on memory and forcing more and more outs every single turn out of Brent would have just maybe made him deck out faster or not present enough aggression to actually end the game like he did. So it was definitely a race within close first game, and then game 2 was just more down to who was able to just turbo and get the actual damage pressure in, which was Brent and sadly not Kevin.
Yeah, I think as the conclusion of this round, I think Brent obviously being 2-0, a very, very good chance to make it through into the next round, and Vicente also, also a very good chance to make it into the next round. But regardless, I'm actually very interested to see what the remaining day pans out to be, because we do know Vicente, he's done with all 3 of his matches, right? Jesmon ended up going
Joseph is done with all 3 of his matches. Jesmon is 2-1, and he is currently one of the only people alongside Brent that has a 2 plus record. So if Brent wins, like, say, one more game, goes 3-0, he'll be the top.
Joseph,
and Joseph
has a good chance. Yeah, Joseph has a good chance of advancing. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is only Pod A. The next match you guys are going to see is going to be the first match of Pod B between European national champion Latin American national champion Daniel Carreño and then Daniel O. And that's going to be commentated by Luis the Panda and Gyro Sean. Me and Juan will be back throughout the day, giving you guys more and more details about how the drama unfolds. But anything you want to say to the people before we take a short break and the next round gets started?
Definitely, I think before we all head out, take a little short intermission. I do want to say every single one of the players playing today, absolutely fantastic players. They have worked effortlessly. They've worked very hard to get to this point, to reach this world championship. And congratulations once again to them. And I hope to see nothing but success to each and every single one of them.
Oh, me too. I cannot wait to see how the rest of these games unfold. But we will see the next round starting in just a little bit. We'll see you guys real soon.
All right, take it easy. See you guys in a bit.